So there was nothing in this game that was going to make me feel better. I don't like the way I said better, by the way. Nothing that was going to make me feel better about the rest of the season. But I could have felt worse, and I'm not feeling worse right now. But I definitely don't feel like I feel necessarily better. Texas A&M wins 30-17 over South Carolina game, a game that they did some things that I expected, and a game where we continued to see some trends that I did not like. It is the TexAgs post-game show. Brought to you by Higginbotham Insurance. You probably only think about insurance when you need it, but at Higginbotham, they think about your risk for you because they want you covered all year long. They start by listening and end with a custom solution that fits your needs and your budget. They do it all: car, home, health, business, employee, and insurance. Higginbotham's got you covered, guys. Higginbotham's a place that leads with values so that your value leads. Call Tyler Smith, 979-871-3162, or visit higginbotham.com. One thing you shouldn't do is open the show drinking Prime because, yeah, you know what? It's good. It's a great drink, though. All right, we get into it right now. So, as I started the show off with here on the post game wrap, like they could have won 50-0, and I mean, it would have been nice, but it wasn't going to change my opinion. Can they win on the road? Can they score? The good was this was, I think Beaglow said it was a dominant, mediocre performance. It was exactly that. They were dominant in this game, but, you know, lackluster, but a game where they did exactly what they were expected to do, which was win by a couple scores. And they did that. A game where the defense teed off on Spencer Rattler. A game that you got to see flashes of what Reuben Owens can be. A game, though, unfortunately, where you've gone now, what is it, 4 straight games without any offensive touchdowns. You go back to Auburn is the last time we saw this team score a touchdown in the second half, offensive touchdown, I should say. That means Arkansas, Alabama, Tennessee, and now South Carolina. All you can do is line up for field goals, and that is not going to win on the road against LSU or Ole Miss. Is what we saw today good enough to beat Mississippi State here in a couple weeks? Yes. Is it good enough to beat Abilene Christian? Yes, of course. But you're going to have to dial it up offensively, and in the first quarter, I already had like a narrative written in my head because it was going a direction I did not expect it to go. I did not expect that slow of a performance because for the first time this year, they didn't really move the ball on that first drive. They were terrible. That whole first quarter. What was it? 28 yards in the first quarter, but then they did turn it on in the second quarter, doing a little bit of what we asked for this week, which was shorter passes. I wish we had a bunch of Anaya Smiths, and not just because of the production, just the way the dude plays the game. He inspires the way when he catches the ball, there's inspiration, the way he runs after the ball. The yak was crazy for him today. So proud of the way he plays every week, but we saw a lot of that today. Let's open up to our post-game wrap crew. Brandon Leone and Chris Taylor joining us here on the post-game wrap. We'll start things off with CT, who's up on top. CT, your thoughts on this performance today from Texas A&M?
Yeah, just to kind of echo your thoughts on, the way this game started. I thought we came out and we slept through it offensively, in the first quarter, but to score 30 over the last 3 quarters, we got the win. We're back in the left-hand column. I think that can't be forgotten in this point, but again, I think the defense played lights out. I think they harassed Spencer Rattler all game. Edgerrin Cooper is a dog. That guy he's sideline to sideline. He plays hard. He's impossible to block. He diagnoses things quickly, and he's always around the football. So, I thought defensively we were great. We controlled the line of scrimmage for the most part. Had some breakdowns on the back end to give up some third down plays, but overall, I thought the defense was great. And so, offensively, we're still a work in progress. For whatever reason, we keep changing out our offensive lines every few possessions, but I thought that offensive line of Crownover, of Layden Robinson, we have our Bryce at center. I thought Dewberry and then Zune outside at left tackle. I thought that offensive line combination, they really kind of settled us down on offense. We were able to create some holes in the running game. We were able to protect Max a little bit more and push the ball down the field. So I really like that offensive line combination. And, I said it a few different times on Twitter, but, we've got to have faster starts. Going on the road to Ole Miss, we can't start a first quarter like that, or we could find ourselves down 14, 21 points in the first quarter. So some things, not sure, what things were worked on in the bye week, possibly getting the ball out quicker and things like that. But it's still rather alarming to have a slow start after a bye week playing against a South Carolina team that has so many injuries. But overall, you win a game, you put up 30 points. We've got to correct some things in the second half, make some adjustments to what they're doing going into the second half. But I thought we were more aggressive, calling the timeout before half, taking the shot down the field, the play after, and doing those things, even trying to get the ball back after we scored, having a little bit more aggressiveness, going for it on fourth down to really salt the clock there at the end of the game. So a win is a win. Not the most impressive win that we'd like to see, but, in this game, in the SEC, we'll take all the wins we can get because they're hard to come by, and we came out on top today. So one down, 4 to go, and, we've got to win out from here on out. So those are my thoughts for the game today.
Leone?
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Nuño. I had a narrative written in my head in the first quarter pretty quick. That was man, that was so frustrating. You come off the bye week against probably the worst team in the SEC, and you don't cross the 50-yard line until midway through the second quarter. You're down 7-0. You look uninspired on offense. Receivers were not running great routes. The O-line was getting their tails kicked again, long developing plays. Quarterback wasn't being patient, holding the ball. You went 0 for on third down. And so you're seeing this in the first quarter. You're like, what in the heck is going on? Like, what else do we need to see? But then they turned it around. Like CT said, you got another SEC win. There wasn't really anything today that was impressive outside of probably Edrin Cooper's passion, Anaya Smith's passion, and the defensive performance I thought was unbelievable. And I'm telling you right now, I feel for those guys because they are playing their butts off. They held them to just over 200 yards, 33 yards rushing, an average of 1.2 yards per carry. And then the defense put a scoreless second quarter together, and the offense came together and put 3 touchdowns in. And then you watch that second quarter and you think, this is what this team could be. This is what they can be. The talent is there. How many times did you hear the announcers? Y'all probably weren't. Nuño, you probably didn't get to hear it. All they talked about today was how much roster talent that Texas A&M has. That's all they talked about. Man, they're loaded with 4 and 5 stars. Man, they're a couple plays away from being 6 and 1 and blah, 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 blah. And I think those are the things that keeps everybody frustrated and today just didn't inspire confidence. Like, we head into Ole Miss next week, and I don't feel great that we're going to walk out of there with a win. I absolutely would love to be proved wrong. That would be my favorite thing that's ever happened. But today we get a win, and I'm excited to see if they can shock the world next week and shut up Lane Kiffin once.
Brandon, let me keep it with you because I'm looking at Max Johnson's stats, and it makes me feel like he had a better game than what my eyeballs told me. And not necessarily Max, what I'm talking about here. It's more the offense, right? But Max Johnson, 20 of 30, 249 yards passing, 1 touchdown. If I didn't know that, I would have thought he threw for 118 yards. But you look at the stat line and you win 30-17, like, the style points aren't there because we're so critical. But somebody just looking at it, watching a couple highlights, would be like, all right, A&M seemed to get back on track.
No doubt. I mean, if you were just a casual fan and didn't follow the program closely like us, and you just, clicked on the box score on ESPN and saw the highlights, you're like, oh, that's a nice SEC win. And it was. We won the game against an SEC team, but, they're down a ton of healthy players. They're not having a great season. And I think just when I look at South Carolina's team and I think about what we have, I'm thinking this shouldn't have been a 1-possession game for a large part of the game. And so, Max, I honestly feel bad for whoever's in that quarterback for us at this point, because, man, we are, there's a lot of pressure being given. There's a lot of hits being taken by our quarterbacks. I mean, you could just see Max, man, like, he just was hurting. And so, maybe he's missing some route. I think he's missing some balls downfield, but that's real easy to sit here on camera and say that when he's standing back there and getting smoked 1 out of every 2 plays. We got people missing easy blocks, just getting bull rush into the backfield. And so he's probably not very confident to sit in there right now and make the throws that he could typically make. So we got to clean up. To me, that's the biggest issue for the rest of the season, and really has been all season, is the offensive line and a consistent running game. If we can't establish the run, I think we average 2.5 yards a carry. We have to get better at running the football, and we have got to protect our quarterbacks. You can have 45 5-stars at receiver and tight end, but if the quarterback is not protected, you will not win football games, like you said, Nuno, against the Ole Miss, against the LSU, against the Alabamas and Tennessees. It won't happen. It doesn't matter.
Benny brings up an interesting point about the long developing plays. That was my biggest complaint about those first couple of drives. Those were long developing, like, dude, 3-step drop, find the slant, move on. It seemed like they went more to that CT in the second quarter.
Yeah, I think the big thing is if you have a group that's struggling up front, you get the ball out quickly, and you don't give that pass rush a chance to get home. And so I thought Max was more decisive today. He hit the back foot, and whether it was because he had pressure or just because he was mindful of holding the football, he was driving the ball down the field. He was more decisive, and he got the ball out of his hands a little bit faster. So, I think it's a combination of a bunch of different things. Whether it's the play calling that's long developing, whether it's the offensive line gives up a pass rush, whether it's Max holding the football too long. It's a combination of something on every play. We're missing, protections in the backfield. So those are some of the things that have plagued us. But I think that, the formula has to be, especially when you have a young right tackle that's still learning to play in this league, and he's going against elite pass rushers and has some guys that are really physical. We have got to be able to protect him and to be able to call plays that don't have him out there on an island for, 3, 4, 5 seconds as that play is trying to develop. And, that's that urgency as a receiver. When you understand and you see a blitz or something that's coming, I don't know in this offense if we have a bunch of side adjustments or hot routes or anything that are built in, but we can't keep leaving 14 standing back there, because those hits, they're going to continue to add up. They're going to continue to compound, and we're going to be looking at our next quarterback to come in and try to salvage the rest of this season. So, I would like to see that adjustment being made by our offensive staff, really giving Max an opportunity to be, to have one read. If it's not there, whether he scrambles or throws it away or whatever he does. But there's just a combination of some things that are going on that are keeping us from really, establishing and maintaining those long drives. But to you all's point, I think the short passing game, being able to establish a run game, are going to be really key to us being able to sustain those drives and be able to put points on the board.
Brandon, let's get to the offensive line, because they struggled. Yeah, they did. But they gave up 3 sacks on that second drive of the game, and it was going in a real bad direction real quick. They did not give up another sack the rest of the game. They had their issues, not saying that, but at least they weren't getting the sacks. Was that because they finally started adapting the playbook to those shorter passes and moving personnel too, by the way?
I don't know. Right. I mean, with us being this quick, right after the game and not being able to watch film, it's hard to tell if that was just a coaching adjustment, which I hope that's what it was, right? That they made some changes at the line of scrimmage as far as who's picking up what, a shift in the type of protection they have, or if they just started doing what they were supposed to do. I don't know. Maybe we called plays that were, better called into the type of defense and the blitzes that they were bringing from a schematic standpoint. I don't know what it was, but it was encouraging, because if they would have kept that same pace up, Max would have been hurt. He wouldn't have finished the game, and we're probably talking about another tough loss today. And so that formula in the second quarter, man, getting Anias open, getting Evan Stewart open, getting the ball out a little bit quicker, making some good blocks for the run game. If we can do that. Again, I know we all know this because they've shown flashes. We can go do this. It's just, man, the lack of consistency. I hate to be negative. It just seems so hard to believe that we're going to put it together for 4 quarters in a row, now heading into another road game where we've struggled for a long time. And then, I know CT, you touched on it. We have got to score points in the second half. Like, field goals will not win games. 4 games without a second half offensive touchdown. That's a pretty damning stat. That's disappointing, and we all know that won't get it done. It's just not going to get it done.
Let me jump in and say this, and CT, you can take it from here. The Max right that should have counted, and it does change the way we look at this game.
Yep.
So I'm going to put that on this side. but also say every game we've got something like that to say. If the refs would have done this, if this would have happened, like why can't we get things? So eventually, I just want some touchdowns, guys. I don't care how it happens, right? Right, a touchdown, you get the ball, you get off a fumble, score, find a way.
Yeah, and I think that's what the elite teams do. And not to say, we have the elite roster talent, but we're not putting it together. And those really elite teams, those teams that are playing in the playoffs and playing for championships, they find ways to get those things done. And yeah, I mean, we're looking at it, and we have the refs have the benefit of looking at it in slow motion. Thought it was a touchdown, it didn't get called, but then we have a chance to come back. Great ball by Max, and we have a pass breakup on the back end. So it's little things like that one group is on the right page, and then we don't make the play, in another position group, or we have the receiver running wide open, and Max is ready to make the throw, and we have somebody come free, and now he's scrambling for his life, or he's a little late on that ball to Max Wright, and he's not able to get that right foot down. So it's the small things, but we also know that this game, it is a game of inches, and you could see that literally him, Max trying to drag his toe, trying to get those feet down, and the referee said no, he didn't get it down. So, but we have to still figure out a way to find a way and score those points there. And so, to touch on the O-line stuff, Brandon, and you were talking about, as a former player, you get in a rhythm. You want to be able to get going and really get in a rhythm in a game. And we're playing musical chairs along the offensive front. You have guys that are playing, 2 series, and then they come out for a series. And so it's hard to establish and get into a rhythm, especially when you're trying to figure out what a pass rusher is doing, or a nose tackle. What are they doing in these situations? And to play 2 series and then you go and sit, I'm not understanding that philosophy, especially along the offensive line. I can understand the backfield or receivers, but along that offensive line, those guys need to get into a rhythm and be able to establish something to be able to be effective. And so I hope they find a group, settle on that group, let those guys play, and then, so they can be able to establish that rhythm and to be able to be effective throughout the game.
Go ahead, Brain.
No, I was going to say, there's no doubt, CT. I mean, one of the things when I switched to the offensive side that I realized in the high school level, you don't really realize how important it is till you get to college, and the blitzes are coming from all over. The ability to have a consistent 5 up front, for them to know each other, to trust each other, for the quarterback to trust that they all know how to adjust, to pick up the hot guy. That is so important. And like you said, for us to not have that this far into the season, is a little bit concerning, and it's probably kept our offense from getting into a good rhythm. So I 100% agree with you. Pick 5, and God willing, they stay healthy. Stick with them. Find your best 5. You've got enough proof of concept with film for this season to find your 5 guys you want to stick with, to give them a shot to be on the same page for this, what I would consider the most important stretch in a long time. So coming up for Jimbo, for sure.
Guys, I'm going to talk out of both sides of my mouth right now, right? The emotion in me, right? The emotional David Nuño right now is like, that game sucked, right? Like, yeah, we won, but it sucked. Like, I didn't like it. Like, it aesthetically, it wasn't pleasing. That's the emotional, like, fan in me.
Yeah.
Taking a step back, trying to detach myself from the emotion and taking a bird's eye view. An SEC win by double-digit points outside of Vandy is a great thing, guys, right? Like, that's the A part of it. The B part of it is Georgia, our national champs. That's, by the way, down right now to Florida 7-0. But that team, they beat this team 24-14. So the bottom line is, yeah, I want to see a certain style of football. And because of the struggles the last couple of years, I give this – it's very hard to impress me. But the reality is you get an SEC win and you win convincingly, and I think that was a convincing win. I don't think we ever really felt in doubt of losing that game, really, right? There's an Aggie in us that always like, oh, I wonder how they're going to mess this up. But beyond that, the truth is it's not a step in the right direction, but it's a step. I don't even know if that makes sense, but both of you can take it from there.
I think it is a step in the right direction. It's an SEC win. And again, Nuno, let's just be real for a minute between the three of us. I think one of the things that people, like most about this show is that it tends to be some emotion involved.
Yeah.
Like we all care. And I think sometimes people feel like we're an extension of how much they care. But like if we were on the coaching staff, we'd zoom out, we would shut the noise out, and we would see the performance that our defense have had. We continue to build on that. We would highlight, the fact that Anaya Smith had 100 yards, that Evan Stewart was targeted multiple times. I mean, they did some things that were a step in the right direction. But yeah, I mean, there's also that reality of like, you experienced how many different emotions. It was such a Jimbo Fisher football game. Like we went through 47 different emotions of like, what are we doing? What the hell's going on? Then we win the second quarter 21-0. We're like, there we go. And then we come out in the second half slow. And so you feel all these emotions. Like that's what we're all talking about. But hey, here's a couple other big things. And I think we all tweeted about it. You call a timeout before halftime.
Yep.
You go freaking score a touchdown. Hey, you line up behind center with a really big, long, tall quarterback, and you go for it right behind the center on 4th and 1. You convert. That was a wide open play against Tennessee that we didn't do. And so there were some things that you saw that were like, oh, we're making some tweaks. And so I agree with you. Let's say this, remove the emotion. This was a step in the right direction. It's a double-digit SEC win, and we can build on it.
Yep, and I agree. I mean, it wasn't pretty. And like you said, Brandon, it felt like a Jimbo Fisher type game. It's just one of those, those brawls that you feel like you should win by more, but you did take a step in the right direction. I mean, the defense, we can't say enough about them. They're continuing to play lights out. They're continuing to do the things necessary to keep us in ball games. And then, you have I think you converted 3 4th downs today. And, one being the quarterback sneak. I didn't love us still turning around, handing it, to the running back, dot in the I. That's a little scary. And then we convert one to end the game at the end. So I think we didn't play as conservative as we have been the last couple of weeks. But I think that kind of speaks also to the competition that we were playing. Would we still make those same decisions if it were Bama or Tennessee again? And so we took a step in the right direction. And I think that the key fact that we keep kind of glazing over, we won the football game. And, I'm an emotional person. I mean, and I follow you on Twitter too, Leone. And sometimes I sit back and like, okay, what's he going to say right now? Because I know it's coming. Yeah, and the tweet you said, yeah, we don't want to say it, but it's time. That's the first quarter tweet, and then by the end of the game, we're like, okay, we got it done. So I love the emotion. We're all there, but I think it's just because we have the passion for this program. We want to see this team do well. We want to eventually bring a championship to College Station, and that's just part of it. We're critical of our team. We love our team, but we took a step in the right direction to face these next 4 games as we come down the stretch.
All right, let's close out with this thought. I'm not talking about winning at Ole Miss as, can they do it? Because they haven't shown that they can win on the road. But here's where the can comes in. Do we all 3 of us agree that this game, the Ole Miss game ahead, should be a game in the 4th quarter? Meaning either they're a score up or a score down, because that's how A&M games seem to go. And because of that, eventually they're going to figure it out, right? Like that's where the can comes in. Like, do we think it's going to be a close game in the 4th quarter against Ole Miss? And if so, can this team get it done?
I say yes to both of those. I think it'll be close. I mean, none of the games we've played this year, I would say with the exception of Miami in the second half, have been blowouts. And, playing, your top opponents in the SEC, I think this thing will be close in Oxford next week. Can we get it done? Yes, but we have to be more consistent up front. We've got to be able to sustain. We've got to be able to make running lanes. And so I think the word is going to be consistency, and which team can be more consistent in creating plays, not making that costly mistake. But I think it's going to come down to the 4th quarter, and we're going to be right there with a chance to win it.
CT, you hit the nail on the head. Consistency in all 3 phases. We don't need one playing good for a quarter, the other playing good for the next. Special teams is important, man. We're averaging like 34 yards a punt this week. And I think going back a few weeks, the battle of hidden yardage is critical, especially in away games when that's an area where you can kind of switch the field position for your team. We got to improve in the punting game. We got to improve on third down on offense, and we got to improve at the offensive line position. Nuno, do I think that we can win this game? I absolutely do. I'm not saying that, to try to be. Obviously, y'all know that I don't just front and say what sounds good on this show. I say what I feel. I still feel that this roster has the talent to go beat anybody. And when you lose a game to Bama and Tennessee by one possession, there's proof that this team has the ability to do what it takes. Can they consistently get it done across 4 quarters? And like you said, they're due. I mean, it's been a long time since we won a road game. And there would be nothing better for all of us to see us do that and shut Lane Kiffin up and go and beat Ole Miss and take a really big step back in the right direction. And I, for one, would be the happiest and most proud Aggie on the planet if that is what we do. So I'll be cheering them on for sure.
This just hit me. And look, this is being prisoner of the moment, whatever. And not that this moment against South Carolina means anything. Like they were supposed to win. They did win. But next week's game against Ole Miss becomes the biggest game in Jimbo Fisher's tenure at A&M at the moment. I'm saying that because if not, it feels like what it's felt like for a while. 7-5. Here we go. 7-5. They go out and win on the road. Now you start believing, all right, they took care of one obstacle. They should take care of business against Mississippi State and Abilene Christian. Let's finish on this hot streak. So this game against Ole Miss, against a guy that has poo-pooed on your university, on your players, and buried years. Do people still say poo-poo? Regardless.
I do. I'm a dad.
That game, right? That game, does it become like the biggest of his tenure here? I mean, I know he's had bigger wins, but does it become the bigger because of where we are in this program's 6 years with Jimbo?
Every time Jimbo Fisher loses a football game, the next game is the most important one. I mean, we've stacked up way too many L's this far into the tenure. And so I agree with you. I know where you're heading with that train of thought is like, if they win Ole Miss, then we could believe that everyone else is beatable. I think they're the best team left on our schedule, no question. So if they win that game, I think that that's extremely, extremely telling of what they can do the rest of the season. But yeah, man, the fact that we are 5-3 instead of 7-1, the next game on the schedule is the biggest game of the Jimbo Fisher era because the narrative has been switched, man. We're losing recruits. Momentum has shifted the wrong way for the program. And it's going to take that type of win where no one on the planet thinks you can do it to change that momentum and the direction of the program back. So, man, I'm praying that they can go get this W because I sure want to see us get back on the right direction.
CT?
Yeah, I think this is a job-defining game, and again, 7-5, here's the crazy part. We still have a chance for a 10-win season. And, we sit here and we're aggravated. But I love the passion because where we expect this program to be. And that would be, if we can go into Ole Miss, win that game, that's going to be a huge step in the remainder of this season. And like you said, Ole Miss, they're going to come out. That crowd is going to be going crazy. They're coming, are they? I don't even know if they're playing today, but they're going to be ready to go. Lane's going to have them ready to go. This is going to be huge, not just for on the field implications as far as record wise and what bowl game we're going to be going to. This is going to be big. I think on the recruiting front with a lot of our guys that are kind of wavering right now. If we can go in and solidify these guys, this is a huge game for Jimbo and staff.
Brandon and Chris Taylor, appreciate you both. Thank you so much for joining us. See you guys. All right, that's going to do it here for the post-game wrap. A&M does get the win. A double-digit score, not the style points that we wanted, but probably the kind of win we expected, guys. Let's be honest about that. And now the game planning begins for Bobby Petrino, Jimbo Fisher, DJ Durkin for Lane Kiffin next week, right? A must-have win, and it could be huge either direction. But we will talk about that tomorrow on the Luchador podcast, plus, of course, on TexAgs Radio on Monday morning. Thank you so much for watching the TexAgs post-game wrap brought to you by Higginbotham Insurance. We'll see you next time.